And joining us now from Moscow is India Today's Geeta Mohan, the journalist who's bringing you this interview along with Anjana Kashyap. Geeta, you know this man, President Vladimir Putin, an intriguing man, a tall leader. How was the experience of interviewing such a person like Putin?
It's one of the rarest moments in a journalist's career when you get to interview a world leader. And Vladimir Putin, President of the Russian Federation, is one such instance, an experience which is going to be unforgettable. The crew, our entire leadership, everyone was here. But going into the Kremlin, walking into those corridors and going into the Ekaterina Hall, which is the Catherine Hall, historic, that's where all the important meetings, the decorations, all those occasions are celebrated in that very room. So it was amazing, just one, to be there. Secondly, waiting for President Putin then to come for the interview and then interviewing the man himself. And I say this because it was a no-holds-barred interview. We asked him any and every question that we wanted to. We had our own counter questions to every response of his. And he very freely spoke about everything, whether it is bilateral, India-Russia relations, India and the region, Russia and the region, and Russia and the world. So we did not confine ourselves just to one subject, that is his very, very important visit to India, which comes after 5 years, but also more importantly, the fact that where is Russia today? It's a changed world order in many ways than one. Russia certainly is in the middle of a very intense war, not just with Ukraine, but also with how Europe, the West, and America is looking at this entire region. So in all of that, what we are looking at and what we understand is that this is a very confident Putin. Despite all the gains or losses, a very confident Putin who thinks that he has sent out a very strong message. And at this point in time, with the change in administration in US, the fact that they're engaging the administration over here in itself speaks volumes. That's exactly why it was a historic moment, because the day before when we were at the Kremlin, in that very same hall, in the rooms, just a few rooms away, there was a historic moment unfolding right in front of us. That is the meeting of Jared Kushner, Steve Whitkoff with President Putin. And in that meeting, there was a lot of forward movement on how America is looking at an engaged, negotiated settlement between Russia and Ukraine. We'll break that down for you because that's a very important breaking news. But it was, in all, an amazing experience. Anjana and I were prepared, but also the fact that it went very, very smoothly when it comes to interviewing a leader, and he was absolutely okay with taking any question. The interview had to last only about an hour, but it went on for more than 90 minutes. That speaks of how comfortable the entire atmosphere for an interview, an intense interview at that, was.
Right. Thank you, Geeta, for speaking with us. And we'll be keeping an eye out for that interview, which will be aired at 9 p.m. tonight. Now, in a major global exclusive, we bring you an interview of unprecedented access and significance. For the first time on world television, Russian President Vladimir Putin speaks candidly and at length. The full interview airs tonight at 9 p.m. But we now present a brief excerpt in which President Putin comments on the US President Donald Trump's tariff pressure tactics and efforts to exert leverage over India. In a clear and forceful message, President Putin underscores Russia's steadfast support for India and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. In a pointed observation, he emphasizes that India is a major global power, not just a former British colony, and cannot be addressed in the manner it might have been 77 years ago, and that Prime Minister Modi is not one to give in to pressure. Listen in to this exclusive conversation with my colleagues Geeta Mohan and Anjana Kashyap that they had with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Spoke about strategic autonomy, which is what India has been talking about. Strategic autonomy, decide for India's interests. But has India reduced Russian intake of oil after pressure from the West?
my question to you now would be about defense. And India continues to be the biggest defense buyer. Roughly 38% of the market from Russia is bought by India. My question to you, sir, is in view of the sanctions by the US or the tariffs they have laid on India, the arm twisting methods that are being adopted, and I name it's America. How do you plan to circumvent all this? Will you pull back or push harder?
Но мне кажется, что и Индия, весь мир увидели,
Well, I think
что
both
с
the world
Индией нельзя разговаривать
and
так,
India
не обращаясь
have seen that
7 лет
one
назад.
cannot talk to India the way they used to talk to it 77 years ago. India is a great power, not an English or British colony, and everyone will have to take that into
У
account.
индийского правительства
And moreover, the head of the Indian government, Prime Minister Modi, is not one to give in to pressure. The Indian nation can take pride in their Prime Minister. It's absolutely evident Prime Minister Modi has a firm position, which is not, however, confrontational, nor are we going to enter into confrontation with anyone. We are simply trying to defend our legitimate interests, and that is exactly what India is doing. What are the obstacles? There's transactions and payments, but more than 90% of our transactions are carried out in national currencies. There are certain difficulties, of course, because there are intermediaries, but there are solutions to that, because we can transition to using the systems for financial messaging systems, which we have offered by the Bank of Russia and by our Indian counterparts. And we are doing this work
Те, кто предпринимает
steadily. And those who are taking steps
экономической
to
сфере третьих
limit
в конечном итоге сами
the economic cooperation of third parties sooner or later will incur losses. And I think once this understanding settles in completely and fully, then
эта практика
this practice
давления за
of pressure from outside is gone.
Just talking about sustainability and trade, there is immense pressure on India and on Russia when it comes to oil. India has suffered in terms of the kind of pressure that we're seeing from West. How can both countries handle this Western pressure and sanctions?